We are called, as we like to say, to look into one another's eyes in order to see more deeply and in order to recognize the beauty of God in every living human being.
Our advice is to make friends to followers of all religions.
Muy importante porque mi vida religiosa se enriqueció con explicaciones de él. Se enriqueció muchísimo, ¿no? Y supongo que también algunas mías, ¿no? Bueno.
Fue nuestra vocación religiosa la que propició el que nos encontremos en la vida.
No matter from which side of the mountain you are climbing, we should be helping each other so that we can all get to the same place. So there is need for people to make friends.
وألا نبحث عن أوجه الخلافات التي تختص بكل طائفة عن الأخرى.
Personal contact, personal friendship. Then we can exchange deeper level of experience.
Honor other religions like you do your own.
We need to get together and know one another, just to discover and explore those commonalities.
That starts a process where prejudices go away, where new insights are born, and where basically hope is born.
It's not complicated. I would say to everyone, start with sharing what we all share, which is the pleasure of conversation.
One of the wonderful things about spending time with people completely unlike you is you discover how much you have in common. The same fears, the same hopes, the same concerns.
I think I'll keep it very simple. It's probably time to talk less, listen more.
അങ്ങനെ വിശ്വസൗഹാർദ്ദ ഒരു യാഥാർത്ഥ്യമാകട്ടെ.
At exactly 1400 hours, the world's most prominent religious leaders will address the world simultaneously in a joint appeal to be released on Twitter. This statement will be preceded by an introduction to their appeal by the initiator of this project and the experts who will explain its relevance. Various experts have reported about this misunderstanding that people think they're being viewed negatively by the other, while research shows in reality that the vast majority of people are very open to people with other beliefs. So first, let's look at a 2-minute clip that illustrates this misunderstanding. It offers a global cross-section of views from across the world.
I feel like they think I'm a terrorist, that I am a bad person, and that is purely based on how I look and how I'm not even dressed, it's just the color of my skin.
يعني أنا متخيل لو أنا في فرح وواقف قدام الكنيسة وفي مثلا مجموعة عمال مسلمين معدين، احتمال كبير إن هم يحسوا إن إحنا بنتصرف بخلاعة في الفرح مثلا، أو إحنا عندنا الخلاعة دي حاجة عادية.
आतंकवादी मंदिर साड़ू देख के डरते नहीं साड़ते आतंकवादी मंदिर साड़
nos ven como personas raras. ¿Por qué? Porque nosotros no practicamos ni pues muchas tradiciones que la mayoría de las religiones practican.
I think that everybody is trained within their religion to feel like they're right. So I think at a basic level they would just disagree with me. Like they would think that they were right and I was wrong.
Ik denk dat moslims denken dat christenen minder zijn.
I think people are very scared of my religious group. I think they see people who look like me in public transport and they think, do I really want to get on this bus?
So from looking at these clips, you can understand the scale of the problem. We're now going to hear a statement from Professor Gregory Reichberg from the Peace Research Institute in Oslo. And he's going to explain why this common global misunderstanding is so dangerous and it can contribute to fueling social tension.
I conduct research on issues at the conjunction of war, peace, philosophy, and religion. Many people worry that they're being viewed negatively by others. So if you're a Christian, you fear that you're being viewed negatively by Muslims. If you're a Muslim, you fear that you're being viewed negatively by Christians. The question is, can prejudice and ignorance about the beliefs and practices of the religious other lead to social tensions? I mean, I think it's very clear that they can. The problem is that sometimes we're terribly mistaken about other people's intentions. Sometimes we can misidentify them. And so we end up using force, we end up, using harsh words. We end up acting aggressively out of fear when we've just mistaken about what the other person intended. When we fear another and we start reading intentions into the other, that really sets us up for a bad dynamic. And unfortunately tends to produce what we fear. Prejudice and ignorance usually functions most effectively to exacerbate conflict when there is little existential contact between the individual and the would-be adversary, or the person who's thought to be the negative other. We have to beware of all the negative messaging, that the negative messaging in a way cuts counter to our instinctive reaction, this sort of natural openness that we have.
So we've got more evidence there that shows you that people think they're being viewed negatively by the other, while in fact the religious other is actually very open towards people of other beliefs and faith, no matter from what religion they're from. Martin Lampert of the Global Research Institute, Motive Action, will share with you his new research findings in a 2-minute clip.
I'd like to inform you about the findings of a large study we conducted in 24 countries among 56,000 people. The key research question we would like to answer today is there a potential for a message of friendship across religions? The answer in short is yes, very clearly. Our research shows that the majority of people of every religion have reported that they are always open to people with another religion or philosophy of life. Only 1 in 10 people of every religion say that they are not open to people with another religion, and on average 1 in 4 scores neutral. Therefore, we conclude that a message promoting friendship across religions is likely to resonate with the majority of religious people around the world. And that is a lot of people. In fact, 84% of the world population is religious, and this number is expected to grow in the future.
So, now let me introduce you to the chief organizer and spokesperson on behalf of the leaders. Dr. Ellen Goshen-Gottstein is a rabbi, an academic, and an author of many books and collaborative research projects on interfaith relations. Over 20 years ago, he founded and since then has directed the Elijah Interfaith Institute. Their premier task has been to deepen understanding, foster friendship, and increase unity between religious leaders and communities. Through a study, spiritual sharing, and a rich program, they've transformed the attitudes and mindsets of thousands of religious leaders, developing friendship and trust. Alon has been the driving force behind this campaign, and he will be the official spokesperson.
We think of religious leaders, we therefore think of a message of compassion, a message of solidarity, and all of us in the project would like to extend our heartfelt sympathy and prayers for the victims, for the families, for the entire community. London has known a lot of bad news recently. We hope today is a moment of sharing some good news with you. If the reality is that people really are open, then we need to deliver a positive message of friendship. And what better way to deliver that message than by soliciting the voice of prominent world religious leaders who can reach out to their communities in a message of friendship which will allow them to go beyond fear, to cultivate trust, to strengthen social cohesion by building friendship across the differences within the society. And it's a historic moment not only because all these religious leaders offer their voice in one common appeal, but because in some way we have here an advance in religious teaching. For the first time, these religious leaders are articulating something novel, something authentic, and yet something novel about their traditions. And it is our common hope at the Elijah Institute and all the leaders who have signed on to this appeal that we can inspire the man and woman on the street to recognize, to cultivate, and to practice a new way of being in the world, a way that's characterized through this theme of friendship across religions. We have to find positive meaning in relationships. We have to find stronger antidotes to hatred, to intolerance, and to violence. We need a teaching of friendship for the world today. We need to develop this teaching of friendship not just as a message of one religion, but as a common message that all religions jointly deliver to humanity, to all followers of all religions and members of humanity who are not religiously affiliated. They all need to receive this new teaching of friendship. Now, let's talk about some of the hard truths. We saw the clip that illustrated the attitude on the man and the woman, interesting, all young people on the street, and how there's fear, and that fear comes from somewhere. It comes from the fact that people are practicing religion in a different way. It's not as if everyone is practicing this universal friendship. So when religious leaders are calling for friendship, what in fact they're saying is, this is the way to move forward in religion. We affirm this way of being religious. We reject another way. We're making a choice within our tradition. We're making a choice within our sources. We're making a choice how it is that we would like to guide our faithful and all of humanity, how to guide them to be religious in today's world. You cannot ignore the problems if you seek a healing, if you seek a solution. And therefore, I'd like to offer 3 pointers as to where the problem may be rooted and why what we are offering the world today may not be all that well known. 1, religions are meant to raise humanity to spiritual heights. Love of the other and the deeper unity of mankind are fundamental teachings of all religions. All religions have these teachings, regardless of how the religion looks today. And yet, something else is happening in the actual lived traditions. Somehow, group interests, identity interests, political interests, they all come at the expense of that higher calling of the religion. So somehow, religions are malfunctioning. 2, the training of religious leaders. Because religions all too often malfunction due to the identitarian political forces, the training of religious leaders, especially local religious leaders, isn't always good enough. Very often they are taught to serve the group interests, the political context, the geographical needs, and do not sufficiently integrate the depth of the tradition, its higher vision, its higher purpose. So we're dealing with an issue of education within the religions. 3, the political dimension that I already alluded to, all too often causes loss of spiritual vision. When we look around and we see where does religion malfunction and where does hatred rise, almost inevitably it is related to some kind of a political context. And the coming together of politics and religion all too often spells a loss of spiritual vision. But this need not be the case. Because of the importance of religious leaders to traditions, and because they are the voice of authority, they are the ones who guide, shape, and direct the tradition, they have the ability to invite us to rise above these limitations, to reframe our horizons, to reorient our education. And that's what's happening today. The world's most prominent religious leaders are delivering a common vision within their traditions and to the world at large. And I know for many people they're thinking, well, what about Islam? The same is true for Islam. I've worked with so many Muslim scholars, with so many Muslim leaders. I know what the vision of an Islam can be, that is an authentic Islam can be, that is so different from the prevalent image of a violent, conflict-ridden Islam. Go deeper in any tradition, Islam included, you will discover that teaching. And this is what our religious leaders are urging us to do today. I'm grateful to the world's religious leaders for joining in this appeal. My dream is that this appeal will stimulate the man and woman on the street to rethink the attitudes they hold, to open up to friendship across religions, to learn about other faiths. A call like today's call is amazing, but we have to equip people with practical steps by means of which they can realize these calls. To this end, we've designed toolkits. One toolkit has been designed for the common person, where she can find recommendations for practicing friendship across religions in everyday life. The other toolkit is designed for religious leaders, by means of which they can engage their community and share not only friendship, but also share the wisdom and the teachings of their traditions so they can be enriched. In particular, I'd like to invite religious leaders across the world to download our kit in order to implement and advance a community-oriented program of study. The toolkits will offer you some of the specific recommendations that you will see in just a moment in the presentation in the words of our religious leaders. Let's follow the example of the religious leaders. Let us make friendship and knowledge of the other our way of being in the world today. Thank you.